Last year in Granada, I presented a talk about visual perspective, imagining that there might be a way to listen to certain kinds of polyphony in an anamorphic manner. It was a fun way to think about canons and riddles, seeing as they both involve distortion and transformation. What I didn't mention was that I was actually homeless at the time. My partner and I had moved to Holland, from Holland to Mallorca, now 1 year ago. We lived out of our suitcase for that first 4 months, a long, hot summer. Among the handful of books I brought were these two: Zazulia's Where Sight Meets Sound and Schultz's Music and Riddle Culture. They both spent many a sweaty siesta with me, sitting in the garden, laying in the hammock. I grew to love these two books and the vision of polyphony they defend. Not a stable, solid art that always appears exactly as it is, but a subversive, mutating process of creation and recreation. Both books seemed to be drawing my attention to the same sort of thing: a riddle, a deceit, a generative gap, not on the periphery, but right at the heart of the music I love and have spent my life singing. Canons, enigmas, riddles, and transformations are more than bravado or gatekeeping. They are central and say something important about the repertoire as a whole. So I continued to work on my analogy, seeing it unfold in unexpected and profound ways. Anamorphosis is to painting proper as canons are to polyphony proper. They each twist the normal way of doing things to subvert the shapes as seen. In both cases, additional labor is called for, a procedure is designed and carried out, an unseen element is revealed. By likening these two edge cases, we articulate something important about painting and polyphony in general. In a chapter appropriately titled Riddles Visualized, Schultz spotlights a variety of shapely canons that resonate with the symbolism and rhetoric of their musical content. She comments, "Because of their special arrangement and mise en page, these riddles challenge the reader's usual reading pattern and force him to explore the page in various directions. This forced exploration becomes part of the riddle's resolution, both figuratively and literally. This is anamorphic rhetoric. In order to perform the notes, the singer must change position. Their perspective changes." Consider what is commonly called mensural treatment. One voice is notated in a different tempus from the other parts. What appears fluid and melodic on the page, says Zazulia, may sound syncopated or off-kilter in context, changed by the presence of competing reference frames. The skull, for example, in Holbein's painting, is only visible from the side. A memento mori, inhabiting a world orthogonal to the sitters. They cannot see it, but it speaks to them nevertheless. These riches are fleeting. Remember, remember. A kind of before and after picture emerges, casting material in contrast with itself, transformed, displayed for inspection. Interval canons also introduce the idea of a perspectival gap. Here, the notational now is different from the actual now. A space is opened up for a different contrapuntal experience of the same apparent moment. Here, comes enters even before the dux, a role reversal. Cerrone provides a mirror to deal with his reversal. Ockeghem gives us several mensuration signs, lenses that accomplish the desired refraction. 2 lines become 4 as his Kyrie unfolds. Schiltz reflects. Transformation always presupposes an identity. It is the growth of an entity out of another entity in which it is implicit, to play with the relatedness of phenomena and their capacity to become connected in one way or another. Here's a hot mess. It's a quadruple portrait by Erhard Schön. Where are they, you ask? Viewers on the extreme right and left might be able to answer that question. Anamorphic transformations quite often deal with heads or eyes, seeming to comment on the gaze and even identity itself. What you see depends on how you're looking. So, we know how they work, but how were they made? In 1435, Leon Alberti proposes a grid, or veil of loosely woven fibers, to train the artistic eye. It sits between subject and painter. Such veils and grids enable any image to be transferred, resized, or transformed proportionally. Here there is total freedom to represent or misrepresent things, to force a different way of looking at ordinary objects. Albrecht Dürer adds strings and pinpricks into the mix, translating features point for point from a 3D space onto the 2D canvas. What's interesting to note here is that the lute is shown twice, once for us and once how it will be seen by a future viewer. 2 vantages on the same object, experienced differently because of the viewer's relationship to it in space and time. This is the basis of anamorphosis, to create uncanny things by ordinary means. This, too, is linear perspective. It's making a bug into a feature. Note the resemblance to Beezy's analysis of a mensural canon. We've got the grid to keep track of things, each item mapped to its new location. Such canons tap into a semantic ambiguity at the heart of the mensural system itself. Nothing can be known out of context. Ambiguity forces us to reckon with the contingent nature of perception and our entanglement with the images we behold. We search for stability, unveiling 2 worlds in opposition. This type of illusion is called tabula scalata. Its surface is not flat, but zigzag, revealing different images at different angles. When viewed obliquely, the edges of the various strips converge into a cohesive image, obscuring the gaps in between, performing a scripted procedure set in motion by the artist. There's a rhetoric here that says, things are seldom what they seem, so be critical, be skeptical, be vigilant. De minimis non curat praetor. The magistrates do not concern themselves with trifles, reads the inscription over the tenor line. What in some other situation might be a shrewd piece of political advice, the boss should keep his eye on the big picture, is here the rather audacious instruction to skip over everything with the value of a minim or shorter, making use of a double meaning in the Latin word minima. Somewhat shockingly, as Schiltz points out, this deletes more than half the notes. The trifles that have reshaped one thing into another through this very transformation are revealed not to be trifles at all, a shift in perspective. Whole passages are folded in, edges are brought together. It's a tabula scalata in musical form. Such folding transformations also captured the imagination of geometers. Here, Dürer represents various polyhedrons and globes in the form of nets. These are to be traced out and assembled, their edges glued together. The aspiring geometer or cartographer should explore all the ways a thing can possibly look. Beauty is understood through variety, says Dürer, a claim that applies to anything we wish to study, be it pillows or polyhedrons. Through the course of the century, Plato's solids are recombined into a veritable polyphony of forms, multiplicitous yet unified. All three are perfect, reads the inscription here, acknowledging the simultaneous presence of three perfect mensurations. Close your eyes and behold three independent sonic entities. Open them to reveal that these are but three aspects of one object. Whether that object points to Plato, the Trinity, or plain chant, it's often treated with a reverence that sets it apart from newly created material. Zazulya calls this notational fixity. Here the song Aller regret, Aller regret is represented faithfully on the page. During performance, however, it is rendered as the resolution below by a series of mensuration signs that Compère has introduced. It's a fixed visual form that persists in spite of transformation, a Grundgestalt. We, the performer, the viewer, the beholder, are left hovering between worlds. So my ambition is to situate these two books in a broader visual theory and alongside contemporaneous experiments with representation itself. Instead of a summary, I'd like to end with a song, an experiment with my research partner, flautist Mara Winter. We play with the gap between sight and sound, venturing into uncharted territory. Here she's on the minimized line, according to the inscription, while I sing the line in full. A kind of rogue polyphony that was never meant to be heard, before and after, brought together.